Mic's all the way down. Oh, there we go. It can hear me. Yay. I never go live. This is a very, very not planned live stream. Just a spur of the moment kind of a thing. But yeah, guys, I promised a live stream once I got to 1,000 subscribers. And as you can see, I'm very freaking late. So I've been busy with life and things. So as promised, I'm going to do a live Q&A. So this is completely unplanned. I decided to do it now, just spur of the moment. So let's get some people over here, honestly. So let's invite my Instagram. Let's get people in Instagram over here so I'm not just talking to myself. If you're joining me, let me know who's here in the chat. Remote Control Madness, how's it going? You are the first person to identify yourself. Congratulations. Alright. I do not normally go live. I'm a very pre-recorded kind of a guy. That's just, I don't know, that's just my personality, I guess. Let's get people from Instagram over here. Yo, what's up, Instagram people? I am live on YouTube. Click the link and join me live. I'm doing a live Q&A. Very delayed. Fuck, that was bad. I'm gonna redo that one. Hello, Ethan. What's up? Hey, what's up, Instagram people? I'm currently live on YouTube doing a Q&A. Just click the link right here. See you there. Don't be lame. See you there. All right, I'm rolling with that one. Gotta add my link. So this is a live Q&A, guys. What are your questions? What are your questiones? I got some questions in a forum that I sent out like a year and a half ago when I hit 1,000 subs. But my channel has been kind of taken off lately, so I decided I'd better do this now. Because that makes sense. Sup, Ethan, sup, remote madness person. Should I invite my mailing list? Oh, that'll get a lot of people over here. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna invite the mailing list. There's a lot of trumpet players on my mailing list. Favorite flavor of ice cream? Oh my goodness. Can't go wrong with cookie dough, man. I think you're a psychopath if you don't like cookie dough ice cream. Alright, I'm just gonna send a quick email to my mailing list and then we'll get this party started. That a bunch of people are gonna come. Wow, we got 5 people joining us. I feel like such a freaking celebrity. Holy crap. What are your questions, guys? Live Q&A. Asking all your questions. Let me just send this email out to the mailing list and we will be good to go. Alrighty. Alright. As you can see, this is very unplanned. Yours. Alright, gotta get the link. I will start seriously answering some questions as soon as I mail my mailing list. And we will get this out. I'm currently watching myself right now, that's weird. Gotta double check. Alright, that should get a bunch of people over here. Alrighty. So I'm going to pull up my questionnaire that I made like a freaking year and a half ago because I am a horrible YouTuber who takes a long time to meet my promises. Alright. Where is that questionnaire? I'm on the email list, so I'm anxiously anticipating this email. Damn right you are, Carson. If you want to be on my email list, all you gotta do is, like, watch my free trumpet class and you're put on it. Or download my sound guide. You can find those links in my, you know, in my description. God, where did I put that freaking survey? It's been like a year and a half since I made it, so maybe it's deleted it. Bear with me, guys. Alright, go to forms. Oh, here it is. Untitled form, that's why I didn't find it. Alright, we got like 15 questions in here, so I'm just gonna go through these freaking questions. And, oh, I love it when the subscriber count updates. It's so cool. Anyone watch Mr. Beast when he hit 100 million? That's where I got the idea. Alright, so, question. What was your undergrad like? What did you practice then? Okay, so my undergrad, I went to Ithaca College. Ithaca College School of Music. It started out as like a big conservatory of music. So my undergrad was really good. I loved my undergrad. Great campus, killer professors. It was just a very good experience, and yeah, it was a good experience. I learned a lot. I mean, most of my career lessons I learned after I graduated, and that's just kind of how it is. Like, you learn most of what you learn after you graduate. You kind of just have to be in the trenches yourself to learn some of these stuff. But my trumpet development did come a long way when I was in college. That's where I really saw the most changes during those 4 years. And it was great. Most memorable performance. I played principal on Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe at the Sewanee Summer Music Festival. And that was like one of the only performances in my life where I walked off the stage and I was like, wow, like, we freaking crushed that. And I felt the most happy about my playing than any other performance that I played was playing principal on Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe. And the orchestra was fantastic. The conductor was fantastic. I was super satisfied with my playing. I'm not saying that to be an ego person. It was the most memorable performance for all those reasons. What's the biggest hurdle you had to overcome for trumpet? Yeah, so sound. I talk about this in my webinar, but I thought I played with a really good sound. Like, I truly thought I played with a really good sound until I met this guy whose name is Mike Blutman, and he was the first person to make me realize that, oh, my sound isn't that great. It really needs to be better. So that was my biggest hurdle, was getting that professional quality sound, because I thought my sound was good. I thought I was doing all the right things, but it's something that I really had to learn that I had a long way to go. So my biggest hurdle was definitely sound. Multiple tonguing, I was kind of a late bloomer with multiple tonguing, double and triple tonguing. So I was a late bloomer in that area, so it took me a while to really build that up. Range came naturally for me. Flexibility came pretty naturally for me. But I think sound and double and triple tonguing were probably my biggest struggles when it came to trumpet playing. Alright, I got some more people. If you're just joining me, let me know in the chat. I'd love to, know who I'm talking to. Alright. How long have you been playing the trumpet? And did you go to any universities to further your progression on the trumpet? Yeah, so I've been playing the trumpet since I was 10 years old. I'm 26 now, so 16 years. I said before, I went to Ithaca College. That's where I went to school for music. I never got my master's, never went farther than my undergrad in terms of higher education. But Ithaca College was a great experience. I enjoyed my time there, and I talked a little bit about that before, so I'm not going to dwell on that. Can you tell us what keeps you motivated to make such amazing videos and recordings? Oh, thank you guys. I mean, I like putting out content, and I like when people say nice things about what I put out. That makes me want to put out more. I mean, if I was getting crickets, honestly, I would be far less motivated to make content. Um, Back when I was starting out, I started my channel January of 2020. It was my New Year's resolution, honestly. And I started with just mostly music stuff like multitracks, arrangements, and things like that. My content has shifted more to the education side just because algorithm reasons, and that's what I also enjoy talking about that stuff too. I do plan to put out more videos. I'm actually editing something special right now, so I'll continue putting out more music related stuff and things like that now that I have a lot more time actually. So thanks for the kind words about the content. I really do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. It makes all the hours of solitude and just editing and mixing and take after take, it makes that all worth it. So really do appreciate that. I will continue putting out content probably till the day I die because I do this full time now. I'm a full time entrepreneur, social media YouTuber now that I don't work for the Army Band anymore. So yeah, I'm super, super grateful. So thank you for all the support. That's kind of why I'm doing this as a little treat. All right. So what's your strategy when arranging a new piece? All right. So good question. So chord sheets, editing the original audio file, etc. Okay, cool. Good question. So when I'm creating an arrangement, first I just transcribe the melody. Really make sure that I get all the right notes down for the melody and that that's first taken care of. After I transcribe the melody, then I'll transcribe the bass line. This is just like in music theory in college where you want to start with the melody and then you want to figure out the bass, and then all the inner voices come afterwards. And I usually get the melody exactly how it is in the recording. I get the bass exactly how it is in the recording, and then my creative liberties come after that. So arranging a piece of music is you want it to sound like the piece of music, but you also want to put your own creative spin on it. And I'm really inspired by the pentatonics arranging style. I learned a lot from watching Seb Skelly's live streams about how he puts his brass quintets together. I learned a lot from Christopher Bill's live streams where he's arranging his stuff, because my stuff is kind of modeled off of Christopher Bill. So subscribe to Christopher Bill because he's a great guy and I learned a lot from him. But that's sort of my arranging style is melody first, bass line, and then I figure the rest out as it comes. But great question. Maybe I should do more arranging live streams. I've tried it once early on, but my channel wasn't big enough where that was worth it. So, all right. What inspired you to play the trumpet specifically? Okay, good question. So, what inspired me to play the trumpet specifically is because my dad played the trumpet, and I did have a choice. I like to joke that I didn't have a choice because my dad plays trumpet, but yeah, it was mostly because my dad played the trumpet, and then my sister, who's 2 years older than me, started playing the trumpet because of my dad. And then I naturally just fell in line because my dad played trumpet, my sister just started. That means I wanted to start too, and I just kind of fell in line there. And then I realized that I loved it a lot, and then I eventually went to school for music, and now I play the trumpet professionally. Funny how that works. But it all started because other people in my family played, and I wanted to play too because it looked like a lot of fun. So that's the answer to that. What's my warm-up routine like? Okay, warm-up, it's not like... The purpose of a warm-up is to get all the crap out of your sound. Like that's I learned that from Peter Steiner. He's an international famous trombone player. But I saw it in a masterclass with him, and that's exactly what he said. Is that the purpose of a warm-up, the only reason to have a warm-up is to get the crap out of your sound. And it was kind of like a really impolite way to put it, but he put it better than anyone else. Oh, hey, Sam, thanks for joining. I got sausage biscuit, mariachi guy. Cool. So back to what I was talking about with warm-ups is that the purpose of a warm-up is just to get you ready for whatever the day comes. So whether it's just a day of practice or whether you got a big rehearsal or whether you have a big gig or a big performance that night. So the purpose of the warm-up is just to get you ready for that. But once you feel ready and once you feel like you're ready to go, then you got to stop your warm-up right there. because at that point you're just practicing and then you're just wasting chops. Especially if you're warming up for like a big gig or an important rehearsal or a recording session. You don't want to over warm up because then you're just wasting chops and you're essentially just practicing at that point. So the goal is to get you ready for the day, not to make your chops worse for whatever's coming up. And by over warming up, you actually make your chops worse. So that's a very, very common problem that I see. And yeah, all right. I'm gonna take a break from the forum that I made like a year and a half ago, and I'm gonna see if there's any questions in the chat. I have no recollections of subscribing to you, but that fugue was awesome. Yeah, well, glad that you did somehow subscribe and that, yeah, I put a lot of work into the Bach fugue, so I really appreciate that. How do I improve my range? Okay, so range. So first things first. So if I have a student who has problems with the upper register, 9 times out of 10 I find it's an embouchure issue. So if we just think about high notes and what the science behind high notes are, high notes consist of high frequencies. High frequencies have fast vibrations in the sound waves. However, if our lips are not set up in a way that allows the lips to vibrate at those high speeds, then high notes don't happen, or it doesn't happen with a good sound, or it does happen but it's inconsistent, it's totally hit or miss, or it does happen but our endurance suffers and we don't last too long at all. So if I have a student, like I said, who's having problems with the upper register, I first take a look at embouchure, because that's where most of high note problems come from. It's not from mouthpiece, it's not from taking a bigger breath and using more air, that kind of a thing. I know I'm very strong about I'm strongly against the whole use more air mentality. If you want to learn more, I have a webinar, it's in the link, just watch the webinar and I explain it even better. But so that's the first thing I look at is embouchure, and the second thing I look at is how are they breathing. Because way too many trumpet players, they breathe like they're tuba players. They breathe way too far low. They breathe from their stomach and the lower chest diaphragm. We really need to breathe more in like a soprano singer. So singers are told that they need to breathe in the same register in which they play. So a soprano singer needs to take a soprano breath. So trumpet is a soprano instrument, so we also need to take a soprano breath, especially when we're playing high. It's more of an upper respiratory kind of a breath. But the problem is that a lot of trumpet players, they breathe like tuba players, and that's why they struggle getting a good sound in our register. So if I have a student who has the problem with the upper register, I take a look at embouchure, then I take a look at breathing, and that's where I start. And then I would take a look at things like, tongue arc, shape of the oral cavity. Are they actually putting in the right amount of effort to get that result? Then I start taking a look at those things. Great question. I know high notes are a very, very common topic in the trumpet world, and I want to make sure that you get good information on that topic. Alrighty. The best to practice tonguing. Okay, so anything articulation-based, double tonguing, triple tonguing, you got to practice slow. Slow and steady wins the race, especially with articulation. So there's a myth going around where there's a double tonguing speed, and then there's a single tonguing speed, and then there's this weird gray area in the middle where double tonguing is hard and single tonguing is also hard, and it's just this awkward gray area. So I learned from one of my teachers back during my college days is that that's a bunch of crap. So you should be able to multiple tongue at any speeds all over the spectrum. A lot of people hide behind speed to cover up sloppiness and technique for multiple tonguing. Whereas if they play double tonguing at a slow enough tempo, they start to uncover their sloppiness. And that's why they say, oh, there's double tonguing tempo, single tonguing tempo. So when I learned how to double tongue well and triple tongue well, what I did, and my teacher forced me to do this, and it was excruciatingly painful because this kind of practice isn't fun, just gonna be honest. But what he did, he slowed the metronome down all the way to 40 beats per minute, and that was the 16th note. So let me just pull up a metronome just to show you how freaking slow this is. Got my handy metronome app. I use Pro Metronome. This is 40 beats per minute. Hear how slow that is? And I'm like, oh, that must be the core note. No, that's the 16th note. So that's how slowly I practice double and triple tonguing, where it's like da, ga, da, ga. And I practiced at 40 beats per 16th note for like 2 weeks until I got it clean. And then once I got that clean, I sped the metronome up to 41. Where like it was excruciatingly painful practice, but that's the way you get really good at multiple tonguing and double and triple tonguing, is that slow and disciplined practice. Because otherwise we're rushing and we're settling for sloppiness, and we don't want to settle for sloppiness. We want good tangible results. And the only way to get good at double and triple tonguing is practicing it super slowly, getting it clean, focusing on clarity, and then we can speed it up little by little until we get good results. So, hope that helped. All right. Range, I already answered that. Do you enjoy your time in the Army bands? Okay, I will answer all Army band related questions April 1st of 2023. Just because I'm technically still under contract right now, and if I want to talk honestly about that topic, I would want to wait till my contract ends. And I'm going to be honest, there's some things that I want to share, but I can't right now because I'm under contract. So after April 1st of 2023, I will answer Army Band related questions and be completely candid about that, because I've got some information that I want to release to the masses about that. Alrighty. Got a question. Whenever you get around to it, how much playing on C trumpet have you done? And if you've done much, what are your thoughts on it versus B flat? Cool. Great question, Sam. So recently, I haven't played much C trumpet at all, because Army Band is mostly B flat. I haven't played really any C trumpet gigs for the last 3 years, I think. Partly because of COVID too. Maybe I would have had more opportunities if, COVID, global pandemic wasn't a thing. But yeah, I played a lot of C trumpet in college though. That's where most of my orchestra playing was. And C trumpet is a lot of fun. I like C trumpet. It's got like a little bit of a brighter sound. So, and C trumpet, it's a lot of fun. Like, it really cuts through the orchestra, which is the whole purpose of it. Most American orchestras use C trumpet for orchestras where no matter what you're playing, you're going to play it on C trumpet. You rarely see B flats being played in a professional orchestra. But C trumpets are great. The tricky thing about C trumpets, though, is that I got mine right here. I haven't played it in a while. But just to show you the difference. Goodness. So, on top is my B flat trumpet, on the bottom is my C trumpet. And if I put the bell sections close to each other, you'll notice that the B flat trumpet is slightly longer than the C trumpet. So the C trumpet is a whole step higher than the B flat trumpet. So for example, if you play like a second line G on the B flat trumpet, it's going to come out as a... Man, it's too late. My transpose... Oh my god, that's embarrassing. So an F on the C trumpet, first valve F on the C trumpet, is going to sound like a G on the B flat trumpet. So it's a whole step higher. Wow, that was embarrassing. Not enough coffee today. Alright, so, and the tricky thing about C trumpet, I put it down way too early, is that the intonation is a lot different. So for example, fourth space E, you would play that open on a B flat trumpet because that's more in tune, but on a C trumpet you're going to want to play that 1 and 2 because the intonation is way better with that fingering combination on the C trumpet, just because the intonation is just so incredibly different. Same thing with E flat right below that. You would normally play that second valve on the fourth space. Man, I need more coffee. So on a B flat trumpet, fourth space E flat, you would play that second valve. On a C trumpet, you play 2 and 3. Third space C, you would alternate between open and 2 and 3, because just depending on the harmonic context, you would either play that open or 2 and 3. I like to play high C's first valve on C trumpet. I like to play high B's right above the staff, 1 and 2. On Don Juan, that lyrical solo in Don Juan, the famous excerpt, I play that 1 and 3 with the slide out a little bit, just because I find that improves the tone and that cuts it out a little bit. For low D's, you still use the slide, but you use a different amount of slide, C sharps too. So there's little different things with intonation are different on the C trumpet, and that's really the hardest part. Is that you have to kind of retrain your brain and be able to flip a switch. So like if you were playing B flat, picked up a C trumpet, you need to flip a switch and remember the different intonation tendencies so that you can play in tune on the C. But it really only takes like not much time to learn it though. You just got to spend more time in the C trumpet. There's a big problem that a lot of people have with switching trumpets, especially piccolo trumpet, honestly, is that they only pull out the piccolo trumpet when it's time to play a gig on the piccolo trumpet. Like when it's time to play Christmas Oratorio or Bach Magnificat or Brandenburg or Pictures, the Goldenberg and Schmiel. They only pull out the piccolo trumpet when it's time to play those gigs. But you should really be practicing your fundamentals on all different trumpets, on your C trumpet, on your piccolo, on your E flat, on your flugelhorn even, so that you're fluent. Because you want to be fluent. You don't want to be just conversational in these different horns. You want to be able to play the piccolo trumpet as fluently as you can play B flat, or play the E flat as fluently as you can play B flat. But what a lot of professionals do, and a lot of anyone who just plays these different instruments, is that they leave the piccolo trumpet or the E flat or the C in the case, and then they only pull out these higher horns when it's time to play them for a gig, or if they have a rehearsal that requires them. But you really should be spending as much time on them as you do your B flat, because you want to be fluent in those, so that when a gig suddenly pops up that requires the piccolo trumpet, you're ready to go, and that you don't have to spend extra hours shedding just to warm yourself up for that. Yeah, some army bands do use the C's, some use the E flats and picks. The one I play in doesn't really. I've played my piccolo in the army band. A lot of chamber music stuff like brass quintet. I have played my picks. Never played a C in the army band though. At least just in the one I was in. All right, thanks for joining us, Sam. Yeah, the intonation is kind of whack on the C trumpet. All right, cool. Hey man, I used to think being successful meant landing that big label or soloist status, but I'm curious about how you mentioned market and enterprise approach. Yeah, great question, Antonio. So, a big problem in the music industry, and especially because we're now in the digital age where things are much different, is that it's just, oh my God, we put a label on what success is in our industry, where we think that being successful as a professional musician is getting the orchestra job, or getting the premier military band job, or if you're an educator, landing a public school teaching gig. And that's it, honestly. Or me being a freelancer and getting the Broadway gig, or getting the LA recording studio gig, or the Nashville recording studio gig. And we label success as just these things. But with the digital age now, there's so much more opportunities than just those things. Where people believe that the only way to make it as a musician is a low-paying public school teaching job, trying the whole audition circuit for a decades even, until you get lucky one day, let's be honest, and get an orchestra job or a premier military band job. Or you can be a starving artist and be a broke freelancer and then barely break even because you're living in a big city. But with social media and the digital age, and on how easy entrepreneurship is because of social media, you can make like a really great living just through a following, or not even through a following, or just knowing how to market yourself and knowing how to build a website that converts and that people are willing to invest in you. That's something you could easily do in these days of age, and you can make honestly way more money than you ever could in an orchestra doing this. I mean, it's what I do, and I mean, I'm not gonna make income claims right now because that's not cool, but you really can do that. And my best advice is to find someone who's currently crushing it with this and learn from them, because you are not going to learn this stuff from college. It's too new, it's too recent. People who are teaching in college don't know anything about this stuff. There's a quote from Elon Musk that I really like, that drug dealers know more about running a business than 95% of college professors. Because if college professors knew anything about how to entrepreneurship and how to run a business, they wouldn't be teaching out of college making a teacher's salary. They'd actually be doing it. So my best advice, if you're interested in this career path, is to find someone who's crushing it with an online business or a big social media following or anything like that, and study under them and learn from them. That's what I did. So that's what I'm going to say about that topic. All right, great question though. I love talking about that. What's your favorite sewage? I have no idea what that means, and I'm going to skip over that question. All right. Okay, talking about sewage. All right, I'm going to go back over to the questionnaire form and answer more of those questions. But for those of you watching, just if you have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat, and I will answer any questions that you might have. Alrighty. Okay, where did I leave off on this? Do you ever have days where you just don't feel like playing? If so, what do you do to get back in the mood? Okay, great question. So I have had days like that. I mean, the past year or so was kind of like that, where, I mean, with COVID, it's hard to be motivated, and thank God for YouTube, and thank God for being able to record myself and make my own projects and find my own success through that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been practicing much. So even if you don't have any rehearsals, any gigs coming up in the future, my best advice, and I've done this myself, is to find your own outlets for creativity. Whether that's just recording your own projects like I did on YouTube, or whether that's just playing something you enjoy for fun. Like, for example, my favorite concerto is the Artunian. I love the Artunian concerto. I usually don't really come off that way because I don't really post standard rep on my socials. It's more kind of more creative type stuff. But find stuff you enjoy to play and just play for the fun of playing it. I mean, practice routines don't have to all be steak and potatoes. It doesn't have to be green vegetables all the time. I like to structure my practice routines where it's like 70% fundamentals, your steak and potatoes, all your vegetables. You got to get those in because that's healthy and that's what's going to make you better. And then maybe like 25% repertoire, whatever I have to practice for a gig or a rehearsal or whatever recording session, whatever's coming up. And then at the top, 5 to 10% of my practice routine is what I call dessert. And dessert can be anything that I enjoy, because that's something you look forward to out of a lot of hard work. It's something that you want to do just because you want to do it. Otherwise, practice routines would be, they would suck and you wouldn't enjoy them. And then trumpet playing is a chore and practicing is a chore. So in every practice session, always include something that you enjoy playing, because it's going to make you look forward to it. It's going to make you more likely to take the instrument out of your case. It's going to make you look forward to practicing. And that's what we want. We play trumpet because it's fun. We play trumpet because we enjoy making music. We play trumpet because it's personally fulfilling to us. Or if anyone's watching who doesn't play trumpet, we play whatever we play because it's fulfilling. Or if we're not a musician, we listen to whatever music we like listening to just because we enjoy it. But if we make practicing a chore, then it's going to be a chore. So always have something fun you enjoy playing, and then you'll never be bored of practicing. Like, we want to have fun, right? So let's have fun. Great question. I got a new question in the live chat. What are some advantages and disadvantages of online lessons? Okay, good question. So all of my teaching is online. And if you want to apply to work with me, there's a link. It's the trumpet chat link if you want to apply to work with me. But advantages of online lessons. So you can reach anyone in the world at any time. So if there's someone you want to study with, but they're not geographically close to you, online lessons are perfect, because you can get the right mentorship, and it doesn't matter where you live or where they live, and you can reach anyone you want to reach. So that's the beauty of online lessons. Other things are that you don't have to commute. You don't have to drive to the teacher's house and take up your time. Like if you have to drive half hour to get there, half hour to get back, that's an hour of your time. With online lessons, it's from the comfort of your own home, where you just log on, good, you don't have to commute. That's a great advantage of online lessons. Other good advantages of online lessons are that, depending on the teaching style, you can establish a sense of community where you can connect with all different people from all over the world, and you can learn a lot of different things from people. That's kind of how my teaching style is, where I have a community where we have people tuning in from Hawaii and Arizona and Washington State and New York and Canada and UK and all over the world. And when you can connect with a lot of people like that, you learn a lot of things that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. And you can't get that from in-person lessons. That's the beauty about online lessons, and that's why I love them. Disadvantages: if you don't have a good gear setup, Zoom can kind of be a nightmare sometimes. Where Zoom does this weird in and out audio thing, and it's kind of hard to get a good representation of your sound. But if you have a good setup, that's not a problem. So that's more of a personal equipment thing, and just figuring out the right Zoom settings to make it work. But if you don't have a good setup and you're kind of illiterate when it comes to Zoom, I can see that being a roadblock. And yeah, also there's just some beauty about having someone next to you in the room, and just having that connection, that in-person connection. I mean, I have a someone who I talk to over Zoom every day, who I'm close to. But when I meet this guy in real life, it's just more of a connection because it's in real life and not over a screen. So that's another thing to consider. Great question, Eric. All right. Until I see more questions in the live chat, I'm going to switch back over to the forum and answer more of these questions. Where did I leave off? Have you ever considered making trumpet tutorial tips kinds of video? Yes, I did! That's what the majority of my content has been lately, the shorts, and then I've made some longer form videos, and I'm currently recording more of those. So a lot of that kind of content. I know it's been requested for a while, and that's why I'm doing it now. So, asking you shall receive, my friends. If there's anything you want from me, just let me know. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So any content that you want from me, anything you want my help with, let me know. Leave it in the comments. Get my attention somehow, and I shall provide what you need. And yeah, always happy to help with these things. So you've likely been asked before, what's the process of creating an arrangement? Frequently or material. Yeah, I answered the arrangement question earlier in the live stream, but I'm just going to gloss over it in case you weren't there. So I start with transcribing the melody, then I start with transcribing the bass, and that's the most two important things, especially in music theory. You always start with the melody and the figured bass when transcribing or writing out man, it's been a while since I took theory. When you're writing out like voice leading, you always start with the soprano and the bass. So, and then all the inner voices you figure out later, and just whatever makes sense based on those two things. And then you add whatever creative twist you want on top of it. So most of my arrangements are modeled after, I like Pentatonics' arranging style. I like Christopher Bill's arranging style. I watched a lot of Sibelius live streams when he did his arrangements, and I learned a lot from that. And you learn a lot of arranging from just watching other people do it. That's how I learned, is just watching these YouTube live streams of other arrangers. Whereas sometimes if you go to MuseScore, you can find some pretty good arrangements, and you can of popular songs, and you can kind of see what they did and dissect it. And that's how you learn arranging. And honestly, the best way to learn an arrangement is just by trial and error and just by doing it. So if you want to get good at something, you got to do it. You can read all the books in the world, but if you don't do it, you're never going to improve. Imagine like trying to learn trumpet by just reading all the method books, but never actually picking up the trumpet and playing it. Wouldn't be so successful, right? So if you want to get good at arranging, you got to do it. I still don't consider myself the best arranger, but it's a work in progress, and I'm still learning. Just like trumpet playing, I don't consider myself the best trumpet player in the world, but I'm still making progress and learning new things every day just by trial and error. Back to the live chat questions. Have you ever marched DCI? No, I have not. I've never done any drum corps. My marching career began and ended with high school marching band, and then I stopped. Ithaca College didn't have a marching band, and I kind of planned it that way because I just didn't want to do it anymore. Not because I didn't enjoy it, it's because it was very time consuming, and I was just kind of over it at that point. Army band, I did do some marching, some parades and ceremonial type stuff, but it's kind of light. It's not as intense as like high school or DCI. It's pretty light marching, but I have done it. What's one of your tips? And now I have a mirror on my stand to examine my embouchure. Great. Congrats on taking action, Eric. Like that's you're ahead of like 90% of people who, if you see advice online and you see a tip and you take action on it, you're ahead of most people. So congratulations, Eric. Thank you for taking action and the whole mirror advice for working on embouchure. So I'm glad that you're taking action, and I hope that you're seeing results. Because you can't see results unless you take action. So congrats. That makes me happy. All right. What's your favorite biplane that was still employed in World War II? I don't know anything about that. I know nothing about planes and space and World War II technology. Moving right along. Did you learn the dad jokes from your dad? Yeah, so I have some dad jokes in my video. If you watch to the end, you hear a lame joke for all my long form content. Yeah, I did learn some dad jokes from my dad. Pretty corny stuff. Um, yep, their dad jokes are funny. I don't know. I find them funny. All right. What is your favorite kind of repertoire to play in the trumpet? All right, cool. Good question. So, I like I get pretty bored with standard repertoire, not gonna lie. Mostly because maybe just because I like being different. Like most people only work on standard repertoire. Like I hear, not gonna name names, but some of my colleagues they work on the same 20 excerpts over and over again. They work on the Haydn and the Hummel, and that's it. That's all that they ever practice or play. And if that's all I did for the rest of my life, I'd be extremely bored. So that's why I arranged a lot of like popular stuff. That's why I wrote my own music and arranged new stuff because that's what I enjoy, honestly. Um, and I like creating new things for the trumpet world because there's way too many trumpet players out there, especially the professionals who just slave over the same excerpts and the same things over and over again for decades and decades, never play anything else. And honestly, I don't think that's healthy mentally speaking. Like you got to spice it up. You got to add some variety to your life. You got to enjoy playing the trumpet. So that's how I feel about repertoire. And I really like the multi-track stuff where I can record the first part, I can record the second part, the third part, the fourth part, and then see how well I blend together. I really like enjoying that stuff. I mean, for the first year and a half on my channel, that's all I did. Whereas I just recorded these multi-track arrangements because I enjoy them. And I have a lot of fun doing them. Like I wasn't recording this stuff to be famous. I wasn't recording this stuff to make money. I was recording this because I enjoyed it. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't spend all these years in solitude just sitting by myself recording some stuff. So, I mean, standard repertoire is good. Like I really enjoy playing the Artunian and the Oscar Brim Concerto. And playing the Mahler 5 solo is really fun too. Playing some jazz standards are fun too. The rare times I do play jazz. That's all good and fun, but trumpet repertoire is very small compared to other repertoire like violin, piano. It's pretty small for us. So if all you play is standard repertoire, you're gonna get bored and you're gonna burn out. And I'm just gonna be honest about that. So don't be afraid to spice things up. And if anyone tries to tell you that playing pop music or being different doesn't make you a real trumpet player, screw them. Honestly, like, who are you to tell someone else what makes you a real trumpet player or not? Like, get over yourself. All right, I got a new question in the YouTube live chat. Were you ever in middle school band? If so, were you made fun of for it? Yeah, I was in middle school band. I started playing trumpet in 5th grade, summer before my 5th grade. Was I made fun of it for it? Yeah, I mean, people in high school are jerks, but I don't care. I mean, it's what I enjoy to do, and I'm not going to quit what I enjoy to do to make someone I don't like happy. That makes no sense. Like, if anyone makes fun of you for something and then you stop doing it to make them feel better, to make the bully feel better about themselves, doesn't make any sense to me. If you find something in your life that you really enjoy, keep doing it, and it doesn't matter what other people think. Like, do what's personally fulfilling to you, and if someone doesn't like it, then they don't have to be in your world. You don't have to associate with them. That's totally fine. So if you're in middle school or high school, if you're in band and you really love it, you really like playing music, and then you've got some peers who maybe they're jocks or whatever, and they make fun of you for being in the band, screw them, ignore them, block them out of your life. Keep doing what you enjoy to do. Like, I hate the whole alpha male mentality where it's like the high school quarterback is that's the social king, and then anyone in the band is a nerd and they should be feel ashamed for being in the band. No, screw all of that. I'm trying not to swear, but screw all of that. Like, do what you love to do, and don't be ashamed of that, and keep doing what you love to do. And if anyone doesn't like it, then get them out of your world. That's what I have to say about that. I'm a trumpet player with braces and my embouchure gets tired frequently and it's been frustrating. Any tips on how to improve endurance? Okay, so braces, I know it sucks. I've never had braces myself. My sister did though, and I learned about braces from her. So, you just, short story, you kind of just have to suck it up until they come off, until you get it fixed. That's honestly the honest truth. But until then, I know there's the mouth guards and the mouth protectors that take away the pain and make it so that your braces aren't digging into the gums and the lips. Because I know getting those cuts really suck and it hurts. So the real honest answer is that you kind of have to suck it up with the braces until they come off. And then I've had a student who she recently got her braces off. And she's like, oh my god, like I'm playing high C's now, no problem, and everything's fine. And that's great. And so when the braces come off, it does get easier. So you have something to look forward to. But just don't give up. Don't give up. Keep going. Just keep sucking it up until the braces come off, because the end result is worth it. Like, so many trumpet players I've seen quit because of braces. And if they just stuck with it, if they just gave it an honest go and didn't get frustrated, then they could have done a lot of good things and had that fulfillment. So you just kind of have to endure through the pain until they come off. I can't really say anything other than that. I would have better advice if I had braces myself, but I hadn't, so I really can't speak beyond that, honestly. But keep going, wish you the best, and once the braces come off, it'll be so much better, and just look forward to that and don't give up until then. High notes on trumpet, I can play up to a G on top of staff consistently, sometimes higher but not always. How do you play high like that? And then, hey, I know you, Frank Stroop. How's it going? How long can you plank while holding a high C? Alright, so let's answer the first question first. So, high notes on trumpet. Okay, so I talked about high notes a little bit earlier. So high notes, you want, if I have a student who has a problem with the upper register, first thing I always look at is embouchure. Because if I have a student who has a problem with the upper register, 9 times out of 10 I find it's an embouchure issue. Because just thinking the science behind it, high notes consist of high frequencies. High frequencies have fast vibrations in the sound waves. However, if our lips are not set up in a way that allows the lips to vibrate at those high speeds that are required for the high notes, then high notes don't happen, or they don't happen consistently, or it doesn't happen with a good sound, or it happens but our endurance suffers. It doesn't last too long. So, or it's like a combination of all those things. So, most of the reason why high notes don't happen is because the lips aren't vibrating. The lips aren't vibrating at the high speeds that they need to. So the first thing they'll look at is your embouchure setup. Most trumpet players play with an overbite. Kind of looks like this, where the top lip is a little bit farther out than the bottom lip. And if you just get your jaw forward and correct the overbite so that the lips can really vibrate at those high speeds, that honestly solves most of your range and endurance problems. The other thing to look at is breathing. Most trumpet players breathe like tuba players. They're taught to breathe down low. They're taught to breathe from the stomach. They're taught to breathe from the diaphragm. But something that singers are taught, and I take a lot of my trumpet pedagogy modeled off of singers, because singers can create this powerful sound with just the human anatomy that they were born with, so why can't we have that attention to detail? But anyway, something that singers are taught is that they need to breathe in the same register in which they play. So a soprano singer needs to take a soprano breath if she wants maximum resonance in her register, or if it's like a countertenor in his register. Baritones need to take more of a lower breath. Problem is, trumpet is a soprano instrument. However, most trumpet players breathe like tuba players. They're breathing in the completely wrong register. They're not using the right part of the lungs. So if you're having trouble with the upper register, try taking more of a higher breath, more of an upper respiratory kind of breath. And that might solve your problems. Very last thing to look at is equipment. I'm a very anti-equipment. I only own 2 mouthpieces, and I'm gonna probably be dead before I ever buy a third one. If you're having problems with your trumpet playing, especially your range, blame yourself before you blame your equipment. Blame your technique before you drain your life savings in new mouthpieces. Too many trumpet players go through that rabbit hole and immediately blame their gear. Not a fan of that. So, first check your embouchure, then check your breathing, and then maybe tongue arc and other things like that. But always start, when you're working on upper register, start with embouchure and breathing. Great question. How long can you plank while holding a high C? Okay. Maybe I'll record a video on that. Challenge accepted, Frank Stroop. Oh my god, I've done push-ups. I had a video where I did trumpet push-ups. There's a guy, a trumpet player on TikTok, who's got a big following where he was doing these different workouts, and I kind of made fun of him by doing trumpet push-ups. But maybe I'll try that. Nice to hear from you, Frank. Hope you're doing well. How's Nebraska treating you? Is that a real state? DCI seems fun. Says, have you marched DCI level anywhere? No. So I answered this question earlier, but I've never marched DCI. My high school band director, my second high school band director, because I had a transition in band directors, but my second one played in the cadets. And his last show in the cadets was the Angels and Demons show, if you remember that one. But he really wanted me to join DCI and join the cadets, but I didn't do it. It's because I was burnt out with marching band. I mean, I didn't want to do anything beyond high school marching band just because of the time commitment and other reasons that I'm not going to talk about. But yeah, I just didn't want to do it. Honestly, I'm more of a fan of just staying stationary or sitting in a chair while I play. I'm more of, yeah. I mean, I respect the marching arts. I respect ECI. I know how much work goes into it and how much effort it is, and I really like watching the shows. But I just don't want to be the one doing it. It's a lot of work for me. It's a huge time commitment that I don't want to do. But I did some marching band, some marching in the army, but that's more basic stuff like walking in a straight line in parades and simple turns. Nowhere near as complicated as high school marching band or DCI. Yeah, it's a real state. Corn. It's corn. A big lump with knobs. Alright, I'll answer the mouthpiece question, Mr. Duck. I just want to address my friend Frank here. More serious question, is the soprano breath you're talking about like the wedge breath? Yeah, the Bobby Shue talks about the wedge breath. He calls it the yoga breath too. And it's very similar. We just have different names and different analogies for it. But it's very similar to Bobby Shue's wedge breath and the yoga breath, where it's like we want to take a breath like we're a soprano opera singer. We want to breathe from the chest. Too many trumpet players, they talk about breathing down low and breathing from the stomach. And the problem with that is that our lungs are up here and not in our stomach. And like I talked about before, if we want to have maximum resonance in our register, the soprano register, keep in mind the trumpet is the soprano of the brass family, we need to take more of an upper respiratory kind of breath. When I play, I imagine like Superman posture, and my chest, shoulders stay down, just like we're being hypnotized. I don't know if you've seen those videos on YouTube where people are getting hypnotized. But the chest should expand outwards just like this. And the stomach should expand outward with the chest. If anything, it just naturally follows slightly. We don't pick up our shoulders when we breathe, and it's just a expansion of the rib cage in the chest, just like that. And what I find is that when we breathe like this posture sustains itself. The lungs stay fully inflated, the rib cage stays expanded, and that posture sustains itself. If we breathe like we're blowing, and we blow, then the lungs recollapse, and the lungs recollapse in on themselves. And then it's so much more effort to take a new breath, and it's so much more effort to refill up the lungs. But when you breathe like an opera player and you have this posture, it's just a quick, and then the lungs are fully inflated again. And you play with a much better sound breathing this way too. I find the whole more air, blow harder analogy, it makes it sound labored and strident. I'm all about a good professional quality sound with the least amount of effort. Because if we have a great sound with the least amount of effort, it's so much easier to make music. It's so much easier to have a good result and make beautiful music. And Just have more fun with it, because we don't want trumpet playing to be an Olympic event. We want it to be effortless. We just want to make music and have a good time. And if trumpet is a chore and it's a labor, and it's so hard to make music and have fun. We want to have fun. That's really the end result we want. All right. Have you played any other instruments besides trumpet? I played too many instruments: flute, piccolo, bass, tenor, saxes. Okay. So no, trumpet is the only instrument I play. I really want to be good at piano. It's just something that I've always seen for myself. But I'm very uncoordinated. I'm very awkward in terms of movement and everything. Like, that's why I don't dance at parties. I don't dance at weddings. Is because I'm very uncoordinated. And something about piano and two hands doing different things never really worked out for me. Same thing with guitar. Um, yeah, trumpet's the only instrument I play. I want to be good at other instruments like piano and guitar specifically, but never had time to really dive into it and take it seriously. I'm kind of an all or nothing person, where either I want to be good at an instrument. Notice I want to be really good at an instrument, or I don't want to learn it at all. Like, there's no middle ground. Just this is just the way I think. Um, my band doesn't like this, but I'm the only Barry sax in the highest jazz band, lead flute and lead quad. Cool. Yeah. So nothing wrong with playing more than one instrument. I admire people who can play more than one instrument. I really wish I could play more than one instrument, because my musical life would be less boring. But there's also merit to being specialized and really good at one instrument. That's all you focus on. Um, and this goes for anything in life. The more you focus on one thing, I find the easier it is to be successful. If your mind is spread in too many directions and you're spread too thin, it gets harder. Oh yeah, you got Pete Bond's book. I love that book. Yeah, man. Good to hear from you, man. I miss you from Army training back in 2019. It's been quite a while. Crap, Frank. It's been like over 3 years since I've seen you. Man, we gotta change that. Gotta hang out sometime. Alrighty. Back to the Google form. More questions. Hello, I'm a fellow trumpet player. It'd be cool to know these things. How long have you played the trumpet? Do you have any tips about how to get faster with your tongue? Okay, so I played trumpet for 16 years. I started when I'm 10. I'm 26 now. 16 years. Um, Getting faster with the tongue. I said this earlier, but I'll just gloss over it. So, slow practice. If you want to get good at articulation, you got to practice it slow and you got to practice it clean. You really want to get it clean. That's the most important thing, because too many people, when they practice double and triple tonguing, they hide behind high speeds to cover up their sloppiness. When I was getting really good at multiple tonguing, I was practicing it super, super slowly. Like, I have my metronome at 40 beats per minute. This is how this is how slowly I would practice double tonguing. Da, ga, da, ga, da, ga. That slowly. And I wouldn't speed up the metronome a single click until I got it perfectly clean at that tempo. So that's how you get good at articulation, my friend. Slow practice like that. There's really no shortcuts. If you go too quickly too soon, it's gonna get sloppy again. We really want clarity and ease of playing, and that's how you sound like Sergei Nikiforov eventually. Is that you have that really controlled articulation, but it takes patience and discipline practice. Unfortunately, there's no shortcuts in that area. So slow practice, my friend. Back to the Zoom chat. I mean, not Zoom, YouTube Live. Do you still look down upon your students if they use improper breathing? Okay, I never look down on my students, because I mean they're there to learn. I mean, I'm proud of my students because they invest to learn with me, and most people in the world don't invest in themselves. So there's that, and they're there because they want to learn, because they want to get better. So never ever in a million years will look down on someone who's trying to get better, because you will never be criticized by someone who's doing more than you. Very powerful life lesson. If there's someone trying to get better, someone who's trying to really elevate their life, then people aren't shouldn't look down on that. I mean, the whole social media life, I get hate comments all the time just because people are mean. But people who are massively successful aren't writing hate comments on YouTube or on my ads or whatever. They're out doing great things, and they're not looking down on people who are trying to make it because they know what it's like. So I never look down on my students. I'm there to help them. That's why they're paying to learn from me. So, yeah. Uh, yeah, but the breathing and the technique, that's why they're learning from me. It's because they want to get better at those things, the breathing and the embouchure. I'm not a page turner teacher. I'm not going to be the guy that just assigns exercise after exercise. It's like, okay, next week play this out of the Urban's book. Okay, next week work on these exercises. With my students, I'm working to get them better at technique. That's my goal. And if you want to be one of my students, the link that says trumpet chat down below is how you apply to work with me. So just fill out the application. We'll have a free conversation. And then if we find we're a good fit, I'll explain what that looks like. And then that's that. I'll even put that link in the Zoom chat if you're interested, just to make it easier. Yep, there's that link. All right. Next question. My flute teacher taught me to practice it like slow fast. Yeah, that's not a bad idea to practice slow. Try speeding it up, then going back to slow. Not a bad idea at all. As long as the slow practice is there, I'm not against it. That's too many. Like in the Arbin's book on the double and triple tonguing pages, honestly, the minimum tempo that they write in the Arbin's book is already too fast. You gotta practice double and triple tonguing super, super slow if you want to get good results. For adult players, how often do you recommend having lessons? Yeah, so part of lessons is just the accountability. So having someone that you see every week is never a bad thing, just for the sake of accountability. Um, I mean, some people are more driven than others where they don't need the accountability. They're very self-driven. Some people need someone to kick their ass. Cursed, sorry. Well, some people need someone to kick their ass every week. So that more depends on your personality. But I'm more of the mindset that you should see someone when you're having problems and you need help and you need questions answered. I mean, showing up to lessons um, without a problem, and without a desired future situation in mind, and just showing up to the lesson for the sake of having a lesson. To me, that's counterproductive. If you go to a lesson, there should be a reason for going to that lesson. There should be an objective that you're trying to get accomplished. That's the way I see it. But like I said before, if you just need the weekly accountability to have that support system, then I'm all for that too. Because some people need it. I need it sometimes. Um, I consider myself very self-driven, but I can see how some people just need the weekly checkup to make sure that they're doing things right, to get that accountability. So that completely depends on your personality. How much do you think getting a professional trumpet helps with playing with a better sound? Zero! Zero! Getting a better sound starts with your technique. So, blame yourself before you blame your equipment. Don't be thinking, oh, if I get a better trumpet, or if I get a new mouthpiece, or if I get a new lead pipe or heavy valve caps, that's gonna fix my trumpet playing. That's gonna fix my sound. No, blame your technique before you blame your gear. So many trumpet players do the opposite, where they run into a problem, they immediately get a new mouthpiece, they immediately buy a new trumpet, they immediately get a different lead pipe or heavy valve caps. No. Fix your technique before you fix your gear. I'm very strong about this, as you can tell. Like if you're got a violin student and you hand a $1 million Stradivarius violin to this 5-year-old violin student, it's still gonna sound like a 5-year-old playing violin. Like, handing someone $1 million violin isn't going to suddenly turn them into Paganini. You still got to play with good technique if you want it to sound good. So that's the way I feel about equipment, is that very last thing you should blame is equipment. I only have two mouthpieces, and I'm going to be dead before I buy a third one. Because if I run into a problem, I ask myself, what can I do better? What am I doing wrong? What should I practice to get a better result? Not, I should get a new mouthpiece. Because that's a very expensive rabbit hole to go down. And I'm not really about that. But on a side note, to play devil's advocate, there are some trumpets that just aren't great. I mean, if you buy a $200 trumpet off of Amazon, probably not going to sound great. But just stick to the standards, like a Bach Stradivarius 37 with like a 3C mouthpiece or a similar size. Just buy the industry standards. And then after you get the industry standards, blame your technique from now on, from now to the end of time. Once you get the industry standard equipment, that's it. All right. How long did it take you to get rid of big air mentality? Any exercise or hint that stuck to you? Yeah, so I had a couple teachers who really got rid of this mentality for me. So I used to be the whole take a bigger breath, use more air, because that's what everyone is taught. Every single trumpet player on the face of this planet has been taught to use more air at one point or another during their life. So it's a hard habit to get out of because that's where most of us are taught. I mean, the Chicago School of Teaching, it's all about air. It's all about wind and air, and that's very commonly dished out advice. But the first guy to get me out of it was a guy named Mike Blutman, big freelancer in the New York City area. And then I studied with Pete Bond at Sewanee Festival, and those were really the two guys that got me out of it. So you really need to think more of like an opera singer. You need to really model breathing off of singing, because singers, they create this huge powerful sound, especially opera singers. You will never ever 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 see an opera singer using a microphone or any electronic amplification. They make this big powerful sound with just the human anatomy that they were born with. So if an opera singer can have that amazing attention to detail using just their bodies, why can't trumpet players? So that's really the whole mentality, is that we need to model opera singers if we want maximum resonance in our playing and maximum efficiency in our breathing. So it's not all about the quantity of the air, it's about the quality and how well we breathe and use the right parts of the body. Great question. Love to get into this topic. I have an entire webinar about it. Link in the description if you want to learn more about that. It's about 45 minutes pre-recorded, on demand, watch at your own pace. It's in the description if you want to check that out. Alright, switching back to the Google form. Where did I leave off? What's your favorite metal band? I don't listen to much metal, but when I was in high school, I listened to a bit of Avenged Sevenfold growing up. I don't know if that counts as metal. Maybe that's more just hard rock, but I liked them. I had a bit of that kind of a phase, but that's really the only metal I've ever listened to, if they even counts as metal. Who is your favorite music professor at Ithaca besides your trumpet teacher? Music professor. I really like John White and any Ithaca people in the audience right now. You know, John White he helped me the most with ear training out of any teacher I ever had, even trumpet teachers. He holds his students accountable. He's very hard in terms of grading and homework and assignments. He's a tough professor. Like, it's not an easy A if you have John White as your professor. And he holds his students to very high standards, but he's also an amazing teacher. He's also an amazing human being. Like, just because a professor is hard doesn't mean they're a bad person. But this guy was very down to earth. He genuinely wanted to see his students succeed. And he was hard on us too, because he set high expectations. So John White was a really great professor at Ithaca. He's probably one of the best professors there are if you ever do ear training or sight singing, whatever they call it, and you go to Ithaca, pick John White if you have an option because he's really good. Craig Cummings was a great professor for music theory. He was probably my favorite theory professor when I was there. Um, Trying to think who else. I might have to come back to this one. Conductors, I thought Matt Marset was my favorite conductor when I was at Ithaca. He was only there for a semester because he was a long-term sub because the wind ensembles were going through conductor changes. But he was had high standards. He kind of kicked my ass a little bit. That was my first year when I was a sophomore. I was principal trumpet in the wind ensemble, and honestly, I wasn't ready for it. I had a great audition, but it was a hard gig, and I learned the most from that. I kind of needed it to really just kick me into shape, and it was a good experience. It was a hard experience, some of the hardest music I've ever played in my life, and honestly, I didn't think I was ready for it at the time. But he really held me accountable. No, he didn't hold me. He he really made it so that I was super prepared for every rehearsal. Because if I wasn't, he would let me know, and I learned a lot of things that year from him. And I don't think I would be as prepared to just anything in life as I am now because of this guy. So probably best conductor I've worked with at Ithaca. Um, how do I back to the YouTube chat? How do I be less nervous playing in front of people? Okay, good question. So if you want to be less nervous playing in front of people, you got to set the bar little bit lower for yourself. And I was just talking about high standards and everything, but yeah, you gotta lower your expectations a little bit. You gotta set the bar just a little bit lower for yourself because if you aim for 100% perfection in a performance, you're gonna disappoint yourself because we're trumpet players. We crack notes. It happens. There's this frustrating thing about this instrument. No matter how much we practice, where we might crack a note here or there. Phil Smith during his New York Philharmonic audition cracked some notes. It happens. No problem. But he still won. He still became one of the best orchestral principals of all time. So you gotta be okay with messing up. And if you're okay with messing up, then you're much easier on yourself mentally. I like to aim for 80%, where if I crack a note, I'm just down to 99% now. My goal was 80%, so I'm still crushing it. If I got a 99% on a test or an exam, I'd be celebrating. I'd be pretty darn happy with that. If you got a 99% on a test, would you be crying about that? Absolutely not. Unless you're like, I don't, that's mean. I'm not going to say that. But if you got like a 98 or a 99% on a test or essay, you'd be happy about that. But for some reason in the musical world, if you score a 99% on a performance, you just drive home thinking about that one mistake that you made and not about the 99% that went well. So just by changing this whole outlook on how you see the performance, you just put yourself in a much better space and you're far less likely to have performance anxiety. So great question. Alrighty. I have to play last post in front of my school. Are you from Australia? Or I think that's the Australia version of TAPS, I believe. So just be okay if you make a mistake. It's part of life. It happens. We're trumpet players. We crack notes sometimes. So as long as you're okay with it, it'll be fine. But if your goal is 100% perfection, the second you crack a note, you failed yourself. And then it's all downhill from there. So be okay with making some mistakes. It's fine. Portrait of a clown. Not sure what that means. I really don't like clowns. Is Mike Wazowski Winker Blank? The little green one-eyed guy from Monsters, Inc. That's a great Instagram question. I'm stealing that, Tyler. That's awesome. I'm gonna say he blanks. because blinking is like involuntary. We all blink because we have to refresh the hydration in our eyes or whatever. I'm not a scientist, don't quote me on that, but I'm gonna say he blinks because I'm guessing it's mostly involuntary. So like a wink is something you do on purpose. You don't wink accidentally. So I'm gonna say he blinks. All right, silly questions, love it. Moving back to the Google form. um Worst horn or mouthpiece you've ever had to play. So I'm not going to talk about the mouthpiece for reasons I'm not even going to tell you because it's going to hurt someone's feelings. But worst horn I've ever played was probably my just beginner trumpet that I ever had. It was a Blessing $300 trumpet. My parents bought it for me because they weren't sure if trumpet was going to be a thing in my life for how long or not. And that's very reasonable too, because when you buy an instrument for a kid who's just starting out, you have no idea if they're going to become a professional or not, or if they're just going to play for a couple months then quit and play soccer instead. So of course they bought me a cheap $300 trumpet, and then I eventually upgraded once I got more serious. But it had major intonation problems, so I mean, as a $300 trumpet probably has. So that's my answer to that. All right, we're last question on the Google form. So anyone watching live, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. That's why I'm here. Have you ever been the most to but not what to be if what we're doing with? That just hurt my brain. Have you ever been the most to be but not what to be if what we're doing? Is that really my last question of the night? Is that really? Man. That's hilarious. Okay. Well, on that note, that was the last question on the Google form. Are there any more things you want to know about me or trumpet or career advice or anything for the few people left who are watching right now? Been live for over an hour. Honestly didn't expect it to be this long. But thanks for anyone who tuned in. And yeah, so the reason why I'm doing this is because I was supposed to do this when I hit 1,000 subscribers. And the reason for that is that because I appreciate the support, and this is my way of saying thank you and just doing something special to really, because I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for the audience, if it weren't for the viewers, if it weren't for the support. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm out of the Army band at this point. I decided to say I didn't want to work for Uncle Sam anymore for reasons I'm going to explain when my contract officially ends. But what my career is for from that now till the foreseeable future is that I'm doing this full time. I'm able to make a living off of this, and I'm incredibly grateful. And if it weren't for the support that I got when I decided to make a YouTube channel 3 years ago, so it would have happened. So I really, from the bottom of my heart, really do genuinely appreciate the support. So that's why I'm doing this, and I'm going to continue putting out content. I'm going to continue giving tips or just entertaining you with music and arrangements or just silly stuff, auto-tuning rubber chickens or the silly TikTok type stuff that I've been putting out. I'm going to keep doing it because it's 100% worth it, and if it weren't for you guys, it wouldn't be worth it. So I really do actually appreciate it. Yeah, Tyler, Gummy Bear, Douglas, really appreciate it. Eric, awesome. How's your day today? My day was good. Thanks for asking. I had a productive day. It was a Sunday. I still got some work done. I taught a class. I did this live stream. I went for a 5-mile run. Did some exercise. got some food. But I had a good day. And this is a great end to a good day. Thanks for hanging out with me. Alright, guys. I am going to call it quits here. It looks like all of the questions are answered. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for 1,000 subscribers now. Over 4,000 subscribers. Holy crap. Wow. Thank you. And can't wait to see where the journey takes me, because I'm definitely going to keep doing this. And yeah. I play the high school trumpet I'm learning. Hi, Mr. Beast. Did you make that username just for Mr. Beast's live streams or his comments? That's kind of funny. Alright, have a good night. See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.